Some sins cling like rusted chains, tightening long after the sirens fade. Marcus thought the worst was over when the judge's gavel fell, until the two small spirits he'd orphaned found him in the stone-cold corridors of Redstone Penitentiary. I don't remember the exact moment the steering wheel slipped. The night hangs in my head in fragments. Neon streetlights smearing across the windshield, the radio rattling some trashy anthem, the metallic bite of tequila still on my tongue. I remember laughter, mine, too loud, a laugh I barely recognize anymore. And then the way the sedan jolted as though it had clipped a curb. Only it wasn't a curb. The silence afterward was unnatural, an auditory vacuum broken only by the ticking of my engine, still idling as if nothing had happened. I jolted the door open, stumbled out, and saw the minivan laid on its side. A woman's cry cut the night, a sound that lived between a word and an animal's shriek. I shouted for help while my heart vaulted in my chest, but my legs wouldn't carry me forward. When I caught sight of the tiny shoes by the shattered glass, one pink, one blue, something inside me cracked. The flashing lights arrived, the handcuffs snapped closed, and the funeral song started before I ever made it into the patrol car. They sentenced me to 20 years in Redstone State Penitentiary, vehicular manslaughter, 2 counts. Reckless disregard for human life, the judge said. The words were heavy, but abstract, until the first night I lay on a sweat-slick bunk in Block D. That's when they appeared. I heard a giggle, soft and lilting, floating in the dark like a half-remembered nursery rhyme. My cellmate, Leonard, jolted awake and swore because I'd sat bolt upright, nearly knocking my head on the upper bunk. "What the hell, Marcus?" he hissed. But I barely heard him. 2 small silhouettes stood just beyond the bars, their shapes subtly wrong, as though lit by a light source no one else could see. The boy's head was cocked sideways, shattered glass glittering in his hair. The girl clutched a stuffed rabbit pressed tight against her chest. The fabric burned black where the seatbelt must have caught. Their eyes were wide and empty, twin pools of bottomless night. I clamped my eyes shut. When I opened them, the corridor was empty. My pulse hammered on despite the hush that followed, as though the prison itself were waiting to see if I'd scream. I didn't scream that night, but I did the next. It started with footsteps outside the cell, bare feet pat, pat, pat across the concrete. Then a childish sing-song, red light, green light, can you catch us? Their laughter slid down the walls like rainwater in a grave. When they stepped through the steel bars, phasing through them as if they were smoke, my sanity snapped. I shrieked and pressed myself against Leonard's legs, clawing to get away. The guards banged their batons and cursed until my throat felt raw enough to bleed. Leonard kicked me off and threatened to snuff me in my sleep. But it didn't matter. The children faded only when the floodlights came up and morning stole the shadows away. After that, sleep became impossible. Any blink of my eyelids risked their return. I learned to pace, to keep moving, pinching myself hard enough to raise welts, yet exhaustion claws at a man like a starving dog. One night, my body rebelled. I nodded off, shoulders slumped against cool cinder block. And they were waiting. The boy's voice hovered right beside my ear. You felt our bones crunch. The girl's small fingers brushed my cheek, leaving a cold smear across my skin. Why didn't you stop? I woke screaming high and ragged. Cells erupted in fury. Tin cups banged, curses flew. A riot of outrage rose to the rafters. I heard threats. Shut that drunk up. I'll carve you, killer. Some even threw toilet water through the bars, so the stench clung to my clothes. The guards tried solitary once, but the echoes of my shrieks multiplied in the tighter room until they seeped across the block like spores. They shoved me back with the others, leaving me to their brand of justice. High noon in the prison yard is a hard time to keep secrets. Whispers travelled faster than contraband smokes. I caught the sideways looks from lifers who'd murdered in cold blood, yet glared at me as if I were lower than snakes. Baby killer, they spat. Drunk coward. Weeks of sleepless nights frayed my edges. I stumbled through yard time, my gaze flicking to every shadow. It happened during lineup, near the weight benches. A shank flashed, but the steel never touched me. The children appeared between me and the convict's blade, their faces serene. He froze mid-lunge, turned pale, then backed away as though he'd seen a demon. Maybe he had. The others sensed weakness all the same. One afternoon, 4 of them cornered me behind the basketball fence, while a 5th blocked the CO's line of sight. Fists collided with my ribs, boots slammed into my kidneys. I crumpled, coughing foam flecked with blood. Each blow felt deserved in a twisted calculus. Payment for the lives I stole. I prayed the children would stop them, yet they only watched, their eyes reflecting bruises I could not see, but soon would feel. When the siren blared and the guard tore the assailants away, I lay panting in red soil. The children floated above me, hands clasped, whispering a lullaby that sounded like a dirge. After medical stitched me up, the torment changed shape. I'd wake to find long scratches raked across my back, thin, shallow, but burning like fresh lashes. My cellmate swore he never laid a finger on me. The guards checked cameras, nothing but me twisting in my bunk. The next morning, purple blotches bloomed across my arms, spelling crude stick figures before fading into mottled bruises. I told them, Leonard, the guards, the chaplain. "It's the kids," I said. "They're here. They want me to pay." Leonard laughed until he realized I believed it. Then he kept his distance, muttering about cursed men. The guards wrote it down as delusions of guilt, marched me to psych. The prison shrink scribbled notes while I described small faces, missing baby teeth, skin still torn by windshield shards. I begged for sedatives. He gave me cheap antipsychotics that glued my tongue to the roof of my mouth and made my vision swim. But the children sliced through the chemical fog like knives through silk. Days blurred. Nights stretched on, stitched together by distant alarms and my own muffled sobs. I tried everything, prayers I barely remembered from childhood, deals with a God I'd ignored too long, self-inflicted penance, scrubbing toilets with bare hands until skin split. Nothing banished them. One night, the girl hovered inches from my face. Her rabbit toy dangled, threadbare, one ear half torn. "Why did you drink?" she whispered. My voice shook. I thought I could make it home." "Home?" she echoed, tilting her head until shards tinkled onto my bedsheet. "We never made it home." She pressed her palm to my sternum. Cold shot through my chest, sent my heart thrashing. The boy appeared behind her, eyes starless. He raised a finger and traced invisible lines over my ribs. Agony flared, deep, internal, as though blood vessels burst beneath the skin. I howled until my vocal cords frayed. When Leonard woke, he bolted for the door, pounding and screaming for a CO because I was convulsing on the floor. Medical said I'd ruptured small blood vessels around my heart and lungs. "Stress-induced," they claimed. I saw the outline of the boy's finger painted on my bruise in an ugly purplish arc. The guards stopped cuffing me during transit. They said I wasn't flight risk. I could barely stand. My reputation spread, haunted drunk. Some inmates cut wide berths. Others spat at my feet. The chaplain visited and urged me to confess, to seek forgiveness. I told him confession wouldn't raise the dead. I didn't realize I was already dying. The last night came silent, suffocating. Even Leonard slept soundly. For once I hadn't woken him. A stillness blanketed the block, as if every convict's breath hung suspended. I stared at the ceiling, tracing cracks that looked like branching roads. every path I could have taken instead of that highway. Then a hush drifted in, heavier than air, and the children appeared at the foot of my bunk. They looked different. No broken glass, no bloodstains, only an indescribable absence like light bent around their forms. The boy spoke first, voice balanced between child and echo. "You took our future." "And now?" I whispered, tears sliding into my ears. The girl answered, "We finish rewriting yours." They climbed onto my chest, impossibly light, yet crushing my lungs until every breath whistled. Tiny fingers pressed my sternum. The skin beneath boiled with pain. I felt blood vessels burst, spilling ink beneath my flesh. They traced letters, slow, deliberate, each stroke sending molten agony down my nerves. I tried to call for help, but only a dry rasp escaped. Leonard snored above, oblivious. When the children finished, they rested their palms on my cheeks. The boy kissed my forehead, cold as gravestone, yet oddly tender. The girl whispered, "Sleep now, Marcus." My heart fought, fluttered, then froze mid-beat. A final snap echoed inside me like a snapped violin string. My eyes stayed open, locked on theirs. In that instant, a kaleidoscope of sirens, tears, broken headlights, and tiny shoes tumbled through my mind. But no redemption followed, only vast, echoing dark. They found me at dawn, mouth agape, pupils blown wide. Leonard screamed for once, the first true scream of terror he'd ever voiced. Guards rolled me to medical, peeled back my jumpsuit, and gasped. Across my pale chest, deep bruises, the color of storm clouds, spelled a single word so clear, even the warden went silent. Killer. But by then, I was gone, left to wonder whatever afterlife waits for men who steal children's futures and can never give them back.